Eric Stough, Mr. Butters, giving our commencement keynote today. Please welcome Eric Stough.
Okay. Here we go. Before I get started, I want to thank the Chancellor DeStefano for that introduction and for the 40 years of service to the University of Colorado. I want to shout out to all the proud parents as well. It's a big weekend coming up for moms. Give it up to the moms. Without you, well, we wouldn't be here in the freezing cold. Good morning to the grandparents. I hope you've been forewarned. And to the dignified faculty, I thank you for your gracious hospitality. I'm sure if Matt and Trey were speaking today, you would have put them up at the new Julian, St. Julian, but for me, the Marriott was just fine. And for those of you who couldn't make it, you chose wisely because it is cold out here, but you're in our thoughts. But most of all, thank you to the Senior Class Council and good morning, class of 2014. As Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poo, would say, howdy ho! And he'd go on about how you look and smell an awful lot like flowers. I promised the faculty that being from South Park, I would keep my speech short, clean, and that I'd only talk about poo 3 times. And that's when referring to Mr. Hanky, the CSU football team, and the horrid smell they get from Greeley with those western winds. Thank you, and good luck in the real world. Just kidding. My sister went to CSU, so I hope it's okay I made that joke. She's a teacher, so she deserves the utmost respect. I was completely surprised and honored to be asked by the university to do this, and to be honest with you, I am really nervous. I've been talking to everybody how nervous I am. And in fact, there's something that could relax me. It's legal here in Colorado. It's really scary giving a commencement speech to a distinguished university that's over 130 years old. CU's first commencement speech was back in 1882, and it was only given to 6 graduates. The others must have froze to death or were chopped up and eaten by a famous prospector named Al. But it's really great to be back in Boulder on an occasion like this. Boulder, Colorado is the health food mecca of the world. Since I've been gone, Boulder has been labeled Forbes' 2008 smartest city in America. Come on, it's probably by someone from Boulder who is either an author or a triathlete, but most likely both. Great things come out of Boulder. Expensive peanut butter. I wrote down tea made of fairy wings. And edible shoes made of plastic that look like Swiss cheese. But I've been told don't eat them. Don't eat them. And of course, who doesn't like to barf? Oh wait, I'm sorry, that's a snarf. Who doesn't like to snarf? Yeah. And South Park. South Park came from CU. In case you didn't know that. Yeah, Boulder. Other towns in the area have to name themselves Superior just to compete. So the University of Colorado has been affiliated with a total of 11 Nobel laureates, 9 MacArthur Fellows, and 18 astronauts. And you guys get me, a CU Fine Arts film graduate with the expertise of animating alien abductions, anal probes, and explosive farts on cable TV. Wow, what an honor. For me or for you, it's an honor. But why me? Last year had Mary Poppins as their speaker. It was all, here's a spoonful of sugar, and the class of 2013 was out on their way with the sound of music. Maybe I'm that future self and me messenger from South Park to tell you that 20 years goes by quickly. Honestly, I rarely give people advice because it's way too much responsibility, and I've only been given 10 minutes to reach all of you. Matt and Trey are obviously too scared to be here, and Trey hasn't even graduated yet. So I thought about it some more, and I realized in the past year, CU has witnessed a 1,000-year rainfall that turned into a 50-year flood. You've seen the state legalize marijuana. You've seen a sociology professor reinstated by the appeal of her students with her strong leadership. And a local coffee shop on the hill has been replaced by Starbucks. So I know what you do. You guys bring in the South Park producer because he's dealt with all sorts of crazy things like Nazi zombie invasions, global warming, terrorism, Chinese takeovers, and big-time celebrities who refuse to come out of a young boy's closet. And with all the 20 years experience I've had, I honestly can say there's nothing I can do about Starbucks. It's that darn Seattle, Washington, and now they're the #1 city in America, the smartest #1 city in America, and they too have legalized marijuana. And to be truthful, I heard the Seattle Seahawks weed is a little stronger than the Bronco Mile High weed. But I digress. Sometimes you're ahead, and many times you're behind. But you have to be present and feel those highs and lows. You have to keep them balanced. So for those of you who don't know, I grew up in the quiet mountain town of Evergreen, Colorado. We got some cougars here. That's our last animal. That's not anything to do with the parents here. Sorry. Wow, this speech is writing itself. That's great. During my childhood, I was raised well-rounded. I was sheltered, and I did what I was told. After all, my very first concert at Red Rocks was John Denver. Rock on, yeah. Matt always teases me, he's all into Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd. My dad liked Pink Floyd and the Beatles, so I got that influence, but it was John Denver, and then after John Denver, I went with my youth group to Amy Grant. And now you kind of know where Butters was born. Yeah. And it was 20 years ago that I was sitting where you're all sitting today, except I didn't have a cell phone and there was no Facebook or Tinder to pass the time. I'm sure Tinder is going off the hook right now. Everyone concentrated together on the field. You've got the whole senior class to swipe through. Yeah. In those 20 years, I have worked on all 246 episodes of South Park as animation director and producer. Right over there in a building which is now torn down at the old Hunter building, South Park was created by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, or as you may know them here in Colorado as Matt Parker and Trey Stone. And I don't know how that happens, but it's the press. I was a film major here at CU, lived in Willville, was an RA for 3 years. And ultimately, I wanted to work for Disney. Most of you will have nightmares about a final you haven't studied for. I have nightmares that it's a blizzard and the buff bus never comes. In college, I was overtaken by the passion of animation. Animation is the study of motion. Bringing inanimate objects to life one frame at a time fascinates me, and it fascinated me at the time. Trey asked me to help with the first Spirit of Christmas film, but the Disney dream I had didn't involve Frosty the Snowman going around killing kids. But I got a chance to work on the second one, Jesus versus Santa. And when the show got picked up, I was the first one hired on, and it was the beginning of a great career. Animators live in a world of slow motion. They break down time to 24 frames a second for film. It's a tedious process, and for South Park, each character had to be cut out of construction paper and then filmed one frame at a time. Imagine breaking down your life to 24 frames a second, and now imagine that one of those frames is equally important. That's what we do every week to make a beautiful show. And I guess if you're disgusted by South Park, then you say, ugh, you do all that to make a crappy show? And yes, we do. Every week we're in production. Throughout the 17 seasons of South Park, I've remained focused, driven, and yes, grounded. By season 3, the character Butters was introduced roughly based on my upbringing and personality, with Matt doing the voice. The nickname Butters stems from little brother, little buddy, an innocent, wholesome person. And if you've ever seen our show, you know that everybody loves Butters. But that's enough about me. Today is about the graduates. Hopefully the experience at CU has opened your mind, brought awareness to your heart, and maybe has questioned some of your preconceived ideas from your youth. Because of South Park, I know some of mine have been stripped. You have taken these years to build a foundation to prepare you for the future. It represents your character. It's your ethics, values, and beliefs. In animation, you need to have a great foundation. When we do animation, we have to lock off the table. We have to have like a registration system or a secure tripod. Anything so your work doesn't get bumped or your camera doesn't get jiggled. Otherwise, your animation is ruined and you have to start all over. When things don't turn out the way that you want them to, you have to fall back on an established foundation. For some of you, your foundation is malleable, like silly putty. As it solidifies, you can start building on it with your own experiences. And one day, I say around 30, you can win that Emmy and naturally find someone who too has a strong foundation with similar traits as yours. But take your time. One of my favorite Butters moments in South Park, besides the entire Casa Bonita episode, Casa Bonita, Casa Bonita, is when Butters gets dumped by a girl named Lexus, and he experienced what he calls a beautiful sadness. But how can sadness be beautiful? It's beautiful that in order to feel something really sad, he had to experience something as equally happy. You can learn from Butters that the key to a great life isn't just happiness. It would be a boring life if it were. A great life is fulfilled. It's a soap sponge that has been present for all sorts of emotions, from fear to laughter, sadness to happiness, and one must be open and present to have all these. Don't look to Friday to hope they pass. Instead, take them on. Learn from them in the moment and balance them over your foundation. Not to say you won't get blindsided and knocked off balance by something like love or passion. But when that thrill wears off and your daily routine kicks back in, where will you find your balance? That's Butter's lessons. From Butter. Okay, so I've related animation as a way to look at life, breaking it down, being present of every frame. But animation is done in a controlled environment. It has scripts and storyboards and voice tracks you have to follow. And perhaps, up to this point, your life has been a little controlled. Your youthful years have been supervised by your parents, and we're told to go from kindergarten to college. And unless you're Eric Cartman and you've frozen yourself, then college graduation is where you are now, here at Folsom Field. Congratulations, you have arrived. Take a moment to soak that in. In less than 2 hours, you'll walk through those gates and your hard-earned diploma, and it's time to start thinking about work, getting a job, climbing the corporate ladder, looking forward to raises, maybe buying a house with a partner, and having a baby or two. And for Earth's sake, keep it to 2. I warn you though, life is always in motion. Life beyond those gates can be chaotic like a pinball machine. And I'm talking about a physical, real pinball machine, like the ones in the UMC, not the app on your phone. And pinball is really tricky the first time you play it. Your ball is always rolling, gravity trying to pull it down. You play trying to get it to go into certain nooks and crannies to score without tilting the machine. You have to be present everywhere your ball goes or you'll lose it. When your pinball game is done and you look back at your life, are you going to look up and say, whoa, what just happened? Or will you be present, taking everything in and say, wow, look at the places I went, and I was aware for every moment of it. Philosopher Alan Watts says it best, you can't live it all unless you can live fully now. Well, I guess we learned a little something today. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, live in Boulder or Seattle. Graduation is about one thing, presence. Oh wait, I read that wrong. Graduation is about being present. Graduating class of 2014, stay in balance and keep your foundation strong. We need you. Your diploma is an inanimate object, so be the animator and bring it to life. Remember, we can learn a lot from Butters. Respect one another's differences. Experience leads to knowledge. Be responsible. Oh yeah, and being crass is just rude and it poisons the soul. Swearing can be fun, but doing it all the time can cause a lot of problems. At South Park, we learned that curse words should be for rare and extreme circumstances. Besides, wait a minute. Did I go over the 10 minutes? Oh, shit. Good luck, 2014 grads, and thank you so much. Have a super fun time and be good.
Thank you.
recognize today a special group of graduates. I'm honored to be able to recognize the 54 Army, Navy, Air Force,